May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, preserving the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths crossed his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable and free of economic hardship and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. Today, we're going to have a memorial podcast for Mel Weitsman, who died yesterday evening in Berkeley. Rather than tell you more of what I know, I'm going to read to you from the Caring Bridge page for Mel now, and then I'm going to read some from what people have put on Facebook, and then I'm going to replay the phone chat I had with Mel last April, I think it was. And it's not real long. It was the first one I did, and he was the first guest on Cuke Podcast, Cuke Audio Podcast, and that was in the third podcast. But before we go any further, let us have our pause to meditate. So when you hear the bell, hit pause and meditate, or whatever, for as long as you wish. And when you're through, if you've done that, hit unpause. And we'll be right here to hit the bell to move right on with this podcast. So, Caring Bridge on Sojourn, Mel Weitsman's Caring Bridge page. Sojourn Roshi is gone beyond. Journal entry by Alan Senake, 5 hours ago. Alan is the next abbot. He's the acting abbot now of the Berkeley Zen Center and has been since Mel stepped down, but he hadn't had his stepping up ceremony yet because of, Mel's condition got worse right about the time they were planning to have it. So it's going to be later this month. So Alan writes, with great sadness, the Sangha of Berkeley Zen Center announces that Hakuryu Sojun, White Dragon Essence of Purity, Mel Weitsman, peacefully passed from this world to the pure land of Buddhas and ancestors at home at 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, January 7th. He was 91 years old. Sojun Roshi is survived by his wife, Liz Horowitz Weitzman, their son, Daniel, and uncountable disciples and students across the United States and around the world. Cards and letters can be sent to Liz, Daniel, and the Berkeley Zen Center Sangha, BZC Sangha, in care of Berkeley Zen Center, 1931 Russell Street, Berkeley, California, 94703. And Russell is spelled Russell. The last entry before that, January 5th, 2021, was also from Alan. Dear friend, Sojun is very weak, confined to a hospital bed at home, taking small amounts of fluids. He has brief periods of lucidity, but less frequently as the days go by. Liz and Daniel are getting wonderful support from Mel's cousins, Dave and Linda Young, who came down from Oregon to help. Sojun is no longer having visitors. And there are many, many comments. Holding you all close and sending love. Many comments. So if you want to read more of that, I have a link to that on melscuke.com page. But it's caringbridge.org/visit/Sojun, SOJUN/journal. You just go to Caringbridge and look for Sojun. I've been in touch, I've been following the Caringbridge page, and I've been in touch with Mel a number of times this year, so this did not come as a surprise. But I learned today about it. I hadn't checked anything this morning. I probably wouldn't have noticed it anyway. Katrinka called me and told me because she'd read it on James Ford's Facebook page, or a post that she got of his in Facebook, because she follows him. And James Ford wrote, I've just been informed that Sojun Mel Weitsman, Abbot Emeritus of the Berkeley Zen Center and renowned Soto Zen Buddhist priest and teacher, died this evening. While it was informal, Sojun was my first Zen teacher. After I received basic instructions in Zen meditation in San Francisco, I was given a list of satellite groups. Berkeley was closest to home, and Mel ran it. I fantasized that Shunryu Suzuki was my teacher, but I never spoke to him and only heard him give talks. Mel showed me with his body in the Zendo what Zen practice might look like. I sat in his shop for about a year before formally becoming G.U. Kennett's student, but I've never forgotten Sojun nor my debt to him. Endless bows. He's got a great picture of Mel there at Tassajara. I'm going to put that on Mel's page too. And I'm going to read a few comments here. Sarah Capelli says condolences and suggests looking at Deborah Madison's new book, An Onion in My Pocket, because she mentions, it says, it is related to this man in that it mentions him and intersects with these communities. Yeah. And she says she was his student, I think I'm going to write in there. I'm going to write they were fellow students. Let's say he was a senior student to her. She lived for a while at the Berkeley Zen Center, which he, I'll leave it that way. That's good enough. Rob Quirk says, may perpetual light shine brighter through the fullness of his life. Chris Amaralt writes, such a loss. Thoughts for you and Norman Fisher tonight, along with many others whose lives he touched. Doug Bates writes, I sat one session with him. I thought he was a remarkably good teacher, and I still routinely quote two things he said as answers following a question and answer to one of his talks. Yeah, and then Gary Gash, oh wow, he's a longtime Buddhist, says, if you share either or both, Doug, I for one wouldn't mind. Yeah, I agree. Michael Vasquez says, as it's prayed in the Orthodox Christian tradition, memory eternal. There's a lot of just emojis, gasho emojis, heart emojis. Here's one, Chikan Kitorio. Sojun Roshi, exclamation point, 3 gashos. Edward Oberholzer says, I practiced with him for a week years ago at G Koji. He was a mensch. Jess Rowe writes, wow, with a lot of Chinese characters here in front. Oh, I'm trying to read them. Too rusty on that. I recognize some of them. Anyway, one of the great ancestors of American Buddhism has passed. Om Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha. And then I wrote on it, an unpretentious, easy-going, friendly, I could keep going, but I'll stop there, priest in person. Mark on social writes, such a sweet, sincere, warm heart. Stephen Barris writes, he and my late teacher Dido were thick as thieves. My first teacher, says Sarah. Greg Bantic writes, sad news, a steady, reliable guide to many for many decades. Baika Andrea Heaton writes, he saved my life, really. Thank you. Thank you, James. Svaha, a gasho and a heart. Liz Wolf Spada writes, Mel, you were a friend, a teacher, a special presence. Thank you. Now, I posted it. I just said, R.I.P. Mel Weitsman, beloved, recently retired abbot of the Berkeley Zen Center. I'll post more about him. I mean, it's on Cute What's New blog. I posted about a link to his page on cute.com. I'm not saying too much now. I mean, just letting other people, that's good. David Silva, a most wondrous human being. Alvarez Ricardez, such a remarkable man. Engasho, my friend. Thomas Silk writes, an admirable scholar. When Tom writes scholar, that Tom was he was the nonprofit tax guy for Zen Center for years, and it was pretty much regarded as the best in the country. When he and I are very close. When he writes an admirable scholar, he's using that word scholar as like to include a wise spiritual teacher too. Here's a gasho from Etsuko Yoshifuku, who I knew in Japan. Steve Silberman, Gene DeSchmidt, good night, sweet man. Lynn Henley, say what? Mel is gone past? Barbara Winger posts a link to a YouTube video she put up, tribute to Mel Weitsman. It's just full of her photographs. It's really nice. It's with music. I linked to it on Mel's Cuke page. Look, just go to cuke.com, write Weitsman in the site search box, or go to Cuke What's New blog. Blogger Cuke New, I think it is. Anyway, you can go to What's New off of cuke.com, and it'll take you there. And I have a link to Barbara's YouTube video. And and there's a bunch of other links on his page, and I'll have more. There's more right now I want to add. I probably will wait till tomorrow. Gene Schmidt writes more. Mel left a deep and lasting impression on me, along with Blanche Hartman, whom I hold in the same place in my heart. I learned so much about humility and simplicity from the two of them. R.I.P. Rest in peace. Then there's a picture of Gene with Mel at Tassajara. I bet he handed his camera to somebody. Gene takes a lot of photos. Catherine Hameson, a wonderful, warm human being and a fine Zen teacher. We will miss you, Mel. Oh, just a lot of gashos. Andreas Hagen, Beverly Morris, Armstrong, Liz Wolfspeda, Giancarlo Shinkai Carboni. I'm not reading all of them. I just some. Margaret Ragu. And Joe Cohen writes, Gate, Parasam Gate, Bodhisvaha, R.I.P. Mel. So now I'm going to just let you listen to the phone chat I had with Mel, I guess last April. There's two others. If you go to Cuke.com homepage, there's a link to Cuke audio podcast, very clear up near the top, above the picture of all the first group picture from Tassajara. And the Cuke.com main page for the podcast has pictures and a list of the people there who've been guests in the Zen-oriented podcast, which there've been. This is the 35th one that's called a phone chat, except when I'm playing, there were a few embedded in the early podcasts that were more like a variety show before I started separating, doing, more focused podcasts. Um, and Mel's in three of them. This one was embedded. The other two were standalone podcasts with him. One in November, and the other one was like in August. They're longer. So enjoy listening to Mel. We're just having a chat, and I leave a couple of minutes. I say something before it that comes from that old podcast, and a few things I say afterwards. And then that will be the end of this podcast with just the conclusion. So, gate, yeah. Okay, here we go, Mel. So now I'm going to call up Mel, or pretend I'm going to call him up, because actually I've already done that. I did yesterday. It's not really good quality because I didn't realize that the new MP3 Skype recorder I just downloaded, and I hadn't figured out yet how to use it. I couldn't even figure out how to open it. There was just one thing where it said on or off, and I just pressed on, and then I couldn't get back in it. Anyway, so I thought I was just talking to him with recording with my Audacity direct record of anything on the computer, and that's really not good enough quality to use. So I told him I'd call him back later and we could get it down better, but I just wanted to. So we just went over stuff and said hello, and then as soon as I hung up, bang, a window comes up, and it had been recorded. So on his end, that was good. On my end, I hadn't been using the mic or the earphones. So my voice, that does screw it up a little, but I'll figure that out for next time. Okay, very good. Here we go.
Hi.
Mel.
Hi.
How you doing?
Okay.
You're doing a couple of things now that are really interesting. The lectures, that's really, I'm very impressed. Thank you for doing that. And the Zoom talks you're doing.
The what?
You're giving talks on Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
If you'd be so kind, tell about the Suzuki Roshi lectures that you're, the new book, what you're doing, and about the Zoom lectures, something like that.
Well, the Zoom talks, are just kind of like short, introductory talks to our meetings.
Can you tell me a little bit about the book?
A long time ago, Mel Weitsman asked me, he said, I think, why don't we do another Suzuki Roshi book? And I said, well, okay. And then nothing happened. And then about a year or two ago, Peter Coyote and Lou wanted to do a Suzuki Roshi book. And Peter's always been very enthusiastic about that. So they asked me if I would cooperate with them. And then we got Jack Shoemaker to say okay, because he liked the idea of doing a Suzuki Roshi book, printing it. And but the three of us were not, it was really hard, we all in different places, and trying to edit something like when we're all scattered around, and then Peter has to go to Canada to make a movie and all that. So, and so I got an email from Lou that said, we're turning the book over to you. And I said, okay. So that's what happened. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's
Okay.
good. Well, they had an important function there.
They did have an important function, yes. And I like doing the editing.
I just want to say one thing. Jack Shoemaker, that's Counterpoint Press?
Yeah, right. Jiryu from Green Gulch, he's a student of mine, actually.
Uh-huh.
We put together a bunch of stuff, and we've been working on it.
Wait a minute.
Well,
You put together a bunch of stuff. Let's define that a little more precisely. You went through. Well, Jiru told me that he really appreciated our database because he could see which lectures had been done and which hadn't, and that sort of thing. So you were trying. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your goal was to do edits of the lectures that hadn't been edited or that hadn't been in books, let's say.
It hadn't been in books because I edited a lot of them for the Windbell.
Yeah.
So we took the Windbell ones basically, and put a lot of other ones together with it, plus those koan talks that he gave
On the Blue Cliff Records.
On the Blue Cliff record. Now you got a list of all of them, 24, I think. But we weren't going to print all 24. They just appeared in the index.
Uh-huh.
So I have to go through those and decide which ones work because they're all really good. They're short, but his comments are so pithy. It doesn't take up a lot of space in exploring the koan. He just gives his comment, which is really pithy, and I think it's really good. They're really good, those comments. So we have to choose which ones and how many.
Yeah.
So, but his take on precepts is so different than everybody else's.
Yeah.
And so it's a kind of unique attitude. So I wanted to use the precept talks as a unit.
I have on Cuke.com, there's a file with every comment he made from the lectures on precepts. It's very, very long. He talked about precepts all the time.
There are a number of them that are exclusively about precepts.
Yeah. I like the way he talks about precepts. It's great.
Yeah, it's like, if you are attached to the precepts, that's heresy.
That's right. That's right. A feeling of mine is that a disease of religion is literalism. And literalism is heresy.
Yes. Yep. So anyway, I wanted to include stuff like that because people think of precepts as like rigid rules, and he does talk about rules a lot.
I said you'd been the abbot of Berkeley Zen Center since before when you were ordained.
No. That was after I was given Dharma transmission.
I know, but I said it was like, to me, it was the same. I mean, you were over there, you were in charge of the Berkeley Zendom. And
that's true.
And to me, the Dharma transmission was just a formality.
Yes.
And
67. Yeah.
67. That's what I thought. 67. I remember you went over there. You were living there, and you were managing the Zen Center there in 67. And and you got ordained in
69.
69 with whom?
All by myself.
All by yourself.
All by myself.
Oh, right. Oh, I can see the picture now. Upstairs in the attic Zendo, right?
Attic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's a good picture of Suzuki Roshi.
It's a really good picture.
Shaving your head.
Shaving my head.
Cutting off the last bit.
Yeah,
right.
the Shura. Yeah.
And that was in 69. And, well, to me, you were a abbot.
Well, yeah, I mean, nobody else was there.
That's great.
How old are you, by the way?
75.
Oh, you're Liz's age.
And you are?
90.
Yeah, I thought so. I knew you were 90. I wanted to hear you say it. That's terrific,
90,
Mel.
90 and a half.
That is great. That is great. I'm very happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that was our first guest, Mel Weitsman, Sojun Mel Weitsman. Sojun is his Buddhist name given him by Suzuki Roshi. And we were very honored to have Mel, and I hope to have him back again before too long. That's the end of the phone chat Mel and I had back then, and a little bit that I said before and after it. The quality's not great. There's little weird stuff in it, but there's little weird stuff in this because I've done this with my earplugs downstairs, and there's some weird sounds in there somewhere, but it's all right. So thanks very much, Mel Weitsman, for everything. The last 91 years, I knew you, it might have been 66, so that was 54 years ago. So I knew you 54 of the 91 years. Thank you for being such a good friend. Thank you for sharing yourself with us for these podcasts this year and being such a good steward of the Berkeley Zendo for 53 years. Anyway, Gyate, Parasam Gyate, Bodhisvaha. Mel Weitsman, Sojun Mel Weitsman. Thank you. This has been a Cuke audio podcast. I'm DC Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from Sleepy Sanur with Dogat Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.